Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. Today we'll hear from Christopher EADIE of New York, USA. Chris has worked in the medical industry since 2017 and moved into the credentialing sector 5 years later. As you'll hear during the episode, working remotely has enabled Chris to pursue one of his other passions, bourbon whiskey. Check out Chris's engaging Instagram feed at Bourbon with Chris. But before then, Chris, welcome to the Remotely Interested podcast.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. How are you doing?
Oh, days are going pretty good. No major complaints.
Excellent. Good to hear it. I'm really pleased to have you here to discuss more about your experience in remote working and travel and other things. To kick things off, can you tell me and our listeners a little bit about the work that you do and at what point and how remote working first became a feature in the way that you work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a credentialing analyst. And basically what that is, I am able to have a provider. That provider needs to be what's called credentialed. And so they need to go through a process where all of their documents and things like that are checked and everything is laid out to make sure that they're okay, that they have no prior issues or anything like that. And so that process can take anywhere from a few weeks to a couple of months, depending on paperwork and things of that nature. So once we get that done, we can then move that provider on to be credentialed, and then they can continue to practice. Kind of what got me into credentialing was the remote aspect of it, love the aspect of being remote. And that was something that really appealed to me. I didn't really know about credentialing to begin with. It was something that I thought I heard of, and I thought I knew a doctor can't become a doctor without having some kind of process other than their education. And so once I dug more into that and found out that, wow, a provider has to be credentialed, whether they're a doctor, a nurse, a physical therapist, whatever they are, they have to go through this process as well. It really appealed to me, and really more so, it appealed to me on the patient side of things, to be able to make sure that we can vet, if you will, each provider to make sure that they're appropriate and that they're going to provide good patient care.
Okay, that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
this credentialing process then, does that happen whenever a health professional moves to a new institution, or is it just at the beginning of their careers?
Yeah, awesome question. Yeah, so this really happens in the beginning of when they first enter into an institution, and it continues while they're there as well. So it's a process of, depending on the state. For now, it's every 2 years. So yeah, so a provider can be working at an institution rather, for 30 years. Every 2 years, they have to be re-credentialed. Yeah.
That is really thorough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the kind of documents you're looking at, are you looking at like police records? What's going on in their life outside of the professional sphere as well?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. We're looking at background checks of these providers to make sure that they're clean, that nothing insane has happened
Yeah.
throughout their course of practicing. But a number of things that we look at include like their licenses, their different certifications, their board documentation to make sure that nothing has lapsed. We even, which is extremely important, we even check their background for like any sexual harassment cases and things of that nature. Again, this is all done with the patient in mind, to make sure that our patients are cared for and that they're taken care of by an appropriate provider. And so it's a process. It takes time. Each provider knows that they have to go through this and that they'll continue to have to go through this process.
Yeah, wow, really very important service that you're offering there. And like you say, it reassures the patients to know that those that are treating them are to be trusted
Yeah,
in often, sadly, the most stressful of times. So yeah, very, very important.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So are you working for one particular hospital?
Yes. So currently I'm doing consulting. I'm doing freelancing now. So
Okay.
yeah, so I actually enjoy freelancing, Mary. It's really nice.
Mm.
It's something that gives me, again, it affords me some flexibility. And so working for an institution is incredible, and I love it and I miss it. But also having the ability to freelance and consult on this project or this amazing project over here, something that may appeal to me personally, is something that I really enjoy.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, the institution that you worked for before, for
Yeah.
example, how many credentialers, is that the term?
Yeah,
How
credentialist is cool, or like analyst, credentialing analyst.
Okay, yeah. How many credentialers, analysts were actually working for that one institution?
Yeah, so oh man, so we had it's huge institution, right? Huge institution, and our department for credentialing was obviously small compared to the Department of Nurses and things of that nature. I would say we had about like maybe uh 15 just in the re-credentialing side of things,
Yeah.
about maybe 15 analysts are
Right.
working on different files, providers' files. And there's a number of teams, and perhaps I should have mentioned this, there's a number of teams in the credentialing world as well. So you have what's called like initial department. So these providers, and you mentioned this too, Mary, like when a provider just comes into an institution, they get hired, they have to be initialed, right? So now after they're initialed, you have that department. And then after they're working 2 years later, they have to be re-credentialed. That's another department. So I worked in both the initial side of things and the re-credentialing side of things. And of course, there's a little few other departments as well in between.
Yeah, wow. So there's certainly a lot of work there, because I guess technically a doctor could have been credentialed just before he left one job
Yeah.
and moved into another, and then there's that initial stage that starts the process all over again.
Yeah, it really emphasizes thoroughness, consistency, and again, we want to make sure that our patients are cared for properly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. I've never heard about this job before.
Yeah.
So before you were working for just the one institution, now you're freelance. So are
Yeah.
you working for several institutions at once, or you just have a freelance contract with one institution at a time?
Yeah, so currently I'm working for one institution right now, or one freelance process right now. It's a company, they're based out in California, and it's a really cool concept, really cool project that I'm currently working on now. So being able to have multiple, it's awesome to have, but it does take time.
Yeah.
Again, the thoroughness of each project is important. So it's to make sure that things are done properly. I personally don't take on too many projects at once, only because I know how important it is to make sure that we get things done. I don't mind taking on like a per diem project. I'm actually in the process of possibly doing that now, but it's much more smaller scaled than my main project currently. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, get that completely. Even in accounting, in some ways, it's important not to take on too much work, because it's a job that requires diligence and thoroughness and accuracy. So
Exactly.
taking on too much and doing a bad job certainly isn't the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So when did you first go remote, or did you start off hybrid?
Yeah. So I first went remote, Mary, in 2021, and that was COVID, right? 2020? 2020 was COVID. 2021, I went remote though. All right. And what kind of got me into going remote was I wasn't too afraid of COVID as far as working around it. Our patients have to get better. I was on the clinical side of things back then, and I got really sick. I was actually one of the early on cases during COVID, and didn't know. That was when not much was known about it in the sense of like what to do, how to quarantine, and things of that nature. So I was sick for about like 24 days. It was insane, very, very sick. And so I was like, man, I just wondered to myself, and I was talking to my wife, like, how sustainable is this? I don't want to run out the door and kind of abandon ship, and while everyone else is working and staying with patients and doing their due diligence and providing care, but I still had to consider my health and that of my wife and things of that. And so I took a pivot, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to take these skills that I've learned from being in the clinical side of healthcare, from bedside manner to organizing to communication to even working one-on-one with patients and in a rehab and in a rehabilitation. And I'm going to use that to see what I can do. And I got my first remote job in managed care. And so that was the first time I've ever worked in remote in a remote environment. And I was like, oh man, this is really nice. It's cool.
Yeah. Fantastic. 2021. It's interesting because I've talked to a lot of people who made that pivot during COVID.
Yeah.
But I find your case really interesting because it's the first time that you actually had health concerns in mind when you made that change as well. It's true that during COVID, everybody was obviously thinking about their health and the dangers. There were a lot of unknowns at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That switch was actually in view of the well-being of yourself and your wife.
Yeah, that was definitely important for me to consider that. And it was something that it was challenging to do because I actually really enjoyed, I'm a people's person. And so I really enjoyed being able to speak with patients directly, being able to just see their progression, right? From coming in to the hospital and having these issues or these challenges, and then a lot of times seeing them leave out and getting better. It's because of the fine work that a number of healthcare individuals have done. So I missed that, but still I had to make a decision. So
Absolutely. So that, if I've understood correctly, that was nothing to do with credentialing then. That was actually offering support to patients one-on-one.
yeah, so that nothing to do with credentialing. Absolutely correct. That was me being, I was working for the rehab department, a rehabilitation department, and one of the biggest institutions in New York as far as cancer. And so I was working there. I was just doing a number of different tasks, a number of different responsibilities, from being an assistant to some of the therapists, even working one-on-one with a strength training and helping our patients get better. Specifically, I was working with patients who had BMT, so bone marrow transplant patients. So they would get these transplants and they would be very weak. They would have to be built up and things like that. So they would still be on the side of the rehab side, but it was also an opportunity for me to work with them personally and do some awesome strength training exercises and build them up physically as well.
So yeah, pivot for sure is the word, isn't it? You've stayed
Yeah.
in the medical industry.
Yeah.
You've just moved across to a different department within that medical industry.
Yeah.
And now you've been able to work remotely since
Yeah.
2021 and you've not looked back. I get the
Yeah.
impression.
Man, listen, I have not looked back. Again, I miss bedside, but remote work has afforded me so much flexibility and opportunity. And the way I see things too, Mary, is just like people, companies, firms, a number of them are kind of heading towards that remote opportunity, remote life, if you will. And so it's been amazing.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
About flexibility and opportunities. What are the positive things that come out of working remotely?
Yeah. So one thing for sure is being able to just have no travel, right? Like no travel is so awesome. And living in New York, love waking up and seeing people travel, but I didn't like waking up and going on trains. So and for me, for work, it was, I actually had a scooter. And so I would take my scooter to work. And so that was nice. It was a nice process of travel, but that's awesome not to be able to have to do that. Another benefit of remote life is being able to have the freedom to travel when we want to and be able to do that and not have to worry about missing time or missing work too much as well. So it's a number of different beautiful perks that come along with working remotely.
Yeah, I guess it's funny, isn't it? In a sense, you're saying less commuter travel and more global travel.
Yes.
The travel that we'd actually prefer to be doing.
Exactly. Exactly. How many people get to say that they can do that regularly? So that's pretty cool. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure as well, it's probably reassuring for you guys right away from a medical perspective that you could protect yourself more during that difficult COVID time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Just being able to stay, everyone during that time was just locked in the house, man. You were going, even if you were not a remote worker and you were going to work, it was work back home, you know? And so being able to have that flexibility of being remote and not having to worry about having so much of a health scare. It was incredibly sad, of course, to see other people, a number of folks go through that, including a number of people that we know. But for us to be able to have that security in that sense, as far as health wise, was important for us, and we're happy that we made that decision.
Okay. So what are some of the drawbacks? You've said already that you're quite sociable. You used to have that kind of one-on-one interaction with patients throughout the day.
Mm.
What are some of the challenges, would you say, that come from remote working, and have you found ways to overcome them?
Yeah. So I would say one of the challenges for me is the thing that I like actually love, and that's being a consultant. And so being a consultant for me is like it's really cool, but you just never know when the project is going to end. You never know. And so you have that in the back of your mind. You're thinking about it. You always give your all, right? I've always done that. Give my all to a project, give my all to any team that I'm working on. But you have to know that at some point this can quickly end. So that's been a challenge for me. Another challenge has been you get into a new firm, if you will, and they have how they do credentialing, right? So, of course, we have the basic outline of how credentialing is done, but they may do it this way. And so it's getting caught up to speed very quickly. So any challenges, any hurdles that you may encounter, you have to anticipate that. And so what I've learned to do is just set expectations right up front. It's here's what I offer, here's what I bring. What are you looking for? And to make sure that I can align my skills with what you're looking for. So setting expectations, asking very pointed questions, and just doing that. And so those challenges, while they've been challenges, I've been able to, over time, have these solutions for them.
It's so interesting. It doesn't matter what the industry is, it's so important to manage expectations.
Yeah,
There's no better way to do that than to really communicate as much as you can and as efficiently as you can. I've seen it with discussions with people from all kinds of industries. It's those same skills that are required to be effective.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Chris. So yeah, obviously you're working remotely. At times you're probably interacting with other remote workers,
Yeah.
well as some who are on site. What would you say are the skills and the kind of behavior that's required in order to work well with somebody remotely?
Yeah, so it's very similar to working in person as well. And especially for remote work is trust. You have to have trust, right? So the institution of the person you're working for, you have to develop that trust with them. That's very important and be able to collaborate very well. A lot of times offices or institutions they put on these and a lot of them are incredible, these collaboration events where coworkers can get together, collaborate together, and be able to work together efficiently. But in remote life, there's not really much of that. It happens sometimes, but it's not to the extent that it happens in person. So being able to have that trust is an incredible quality that I've learned when working remotely. Not just me trust my employer, but my employer trusts me as well, and then being able to properly communicate and collaborate, even if it's just simply this process is done, it's coming to my plate for me to do my process, passing it on to the next individual to do theirs so that the whole job can be done. So I really value that. I think it's important to have trust, to have good communication, and even working remotely to be able to collaborate well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it's all the more important that a remote worker proves themselves through the work that they're producing and nothing. It's not about being seen in the office. It's not about even the social side of things. It's about, has the work been completed and is it to the acceptable standards that's been requested? So yeah, I think that's really good. And there's only one way to build that trust, and that's to do the job and
Do the
prove it
job.
time and time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta prove that, you gotta see. And then eventually, as you know, like track record shows itself, and so people begin to know about that about you, and then they begin to trust you, and then you're able to even open up yourself to even getting more opportunities as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think for companies who are hesitant at the idea of employing or contracting workers remotely, need to see things in the same way that you see things within an office. You need to give it a try,
Yeah.
see if the person proves themselves, and if the work's done, then that's surely good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
I found that in my experience. I've had times where I've even dared, should we say, to apply for jobs that aren't remote,
Mhm.
but just during the interview, just basically put everything on the table and say, this is what I would deliver.
Yeah.
I don't have to be in the office to deliver these different tasks. And then it's up to the company to take a leap of faith, perhaps, if it's
Yeah.
new for them, But yeah, as we say, the proof is in the pudding. So it's give it a try. And that trust can only be built if you start, if you give it a try.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, as you know, this is the Remotely Interested podcast about remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. So we've already covered quite a lot under these categories, so that's great. So I'm now going to randomly select a question.
Yeah.
Mosaic Gold plate. So here we go. What are we going to have today?
Let's see.
I'm not looking. Right.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What we got?
You ready, Chris? Right. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? And how would you use it as a digital nomad?
Wow, that's awesome. So, just off the top of my head, if I could have any superpower, it would be to be able to teleport, right? Of course, while still working remotely, because it was something about working from a vineyard in northern Portugal that was just really incredible.
Oh, wow. Tell us about that.
So we were in Douro Valley, and it was incredible. And I had my laptop there and just working from this incredible vineyard, and it looked like a postcard. And so being able to do that was like, man, this is pretty nice. We were also able to go to Sardinia a month or two ago, and I didn't work, but I was ready to work in case I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then just that freedom of mind, like I can get work done here while I'm sitting in this beautiful terrain, you know, and that's my office space. And so being able to having that superpower, I was like, oh, I'll be able to teleport here and have my laptop with me and get work done, or teleport here. So that'd be really nice if I can get that. Maybe I can purchase that option of teleporting.
Chris, it sounds like you've already got that superpower.
It sounds
It might not be teleportation, but taking those flights sounds like you're enjoying that freedom already.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. It's really nice. And again, it's not a lack of not taking the job seriously. It's not a lack of anything like that. It's a lack of our job has to get done. It will get done. We have to. We play a very pivotal role for our patients. But if I'm able to do that in a very relaxed setting or a setting outside of my normal office space in my home, then I'm happy to do that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's interesting as well. When you were first talking about being able to teleport, as much as we are obviously very pro remote work,
Yeah.
there will always be an important place for in-person interaction and
Oh, yeah.
in-person experiences, isn't it? So being remote workers, we already have that freedom, that flexibility to take our laptops to different places, experience new things, and still keep the work going. But yeah, I do think that it is important, even within a professional context,
Yeah.
to meet our clients from time to time, to meet our employees, even if it's just the once, just
Right.
to create a bond that can assist from afar when you're not actually working in the same place. So
Yeah.
teleportation would be good to be able to get that done quickly.
Real quick, we can meet in the office, or we can get a coffee, have a chat. What's the expectations? And then I can get out of there.
Exactly. Then afternoon tea in the Douro Valley and maybe Sardinia,
Exactly.
speed things up. Okay. So earlier, Chris, you talked about making that pivot to remote work
Yeah.
for a whole host of reasons. And you also touched a little bit about travel and having the freedom to explore other opportunities. So do you want to talk about how remote work has enabled you to do that?
Sure. Absolutely. So as you mentioned already, travel is one big aspect of remote work for us. For my wife and I, we love to travel when we can. And so being able to work remotely still and do that is a big aspect for us, a big benefit of working remotely. But also working remotely has kind of afforded me to kind of express my passions in other areas. And I don't have a lot of them, but I have a few of them. And one of them is bourbon, a whiskey. Yeah. So I've started my passion for whiskey, specifically bourbon, a number of years ago. I started collecting. I remember my first bourbon that I had, and I was like, oh man, this is incredible. And it wasn't even like an exceptional bottle, but it was still something that I really appreciated. And that's where it started for me. So now, being able to work remotely, I'm able to venture off into that as well. And so we have this nice little situation going where we can be creative and we create content based off bourbon as well. And so what we do, my wife and I, is we travel. We're able to take these really incredible pictures with different bourbon bottles. We're able to enjoy bourbon in incredible settings as well. And so that's what working remotely has. That's just one of the things that working remotely has enabled me to do, is present my passion for whiskey bourbon.
Amazing. Okay. And totally would not be possible if you were doing a 9 to 5 in an office or in a hospital. Yeah, 5, 6 days a week. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. And so through this passion for bourbon whiskey, have you made connections with other people as well who also share that passion?
Yeah, and that's an awesome question, because the answer is yes, absolutely. We've made a number of connections, being able to even meet strangers who have heard of bourbon but have never really experienced bourbon, or maybe they've experienced bourbon but maybe they haven't. It was just, how could you say, like maybe like a bourbon that is just very available, or very generalized. And so being able to have some expressions of bourbon where maybe they've never heard of, or maybe that they can never get access to, has put us in contact with these individuals, and being able to share it with them, hear how they enjoy it, hear their what they taste on the palate, or what they smell in the glass, has been very, very nice. And so being able to do that in different countries has been a real pleasure.
Amazing. See, that's what I was going to say. Presumably, they are from all over the globe, many different countries, and being able to make that connection online.
Yeah, for sure. It's incredible how bourbon brings people together too. I didn't know bourbon can bring people together so much like that, so that's been really nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'll definitely be sharing that link in the show notes for anybody else who is interested in bourbon whiskey, or even anybody that doesn't know anything, would like an introduction to it. You're the guy to speak to, so I'll be including that link.
Please do. Yeah. If you don't know anything about bourbon, or you know about bourbon, or you just want another bourbon friend or another bourbon enthusiast to talk about bourbon with, I'm your guy.
Bourbon friend, love it. And then, of course, you've got a good few years now in the credentialing space within hospitals. So if anybody wants to reach out to you on LinkedIn, for example, for some advice, I'd be happy to share that link with the listeners as well, with your permission, of course.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So I've been in credentialing a number of years, but always still learning, always ready to give advice as well. Things that I've learned. I remember when I first stepped foot in the credentialing world, I knew very little about it. And I never forget the guy that trained me in credentialing, and I never forget his name, Michael. I won't call his last name, but I remember it's Michael, and he was incredible. He trained me up incredibly well. And so if I can pay that forward to someone, or give someone tips or recommendations from what I've learned, I'm certainly willing to do that.
Amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. Chris, that's a great place to end. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been
course.
interesting and hopefully motivating for anybody out there who wants to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah. Mary, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate what you're doing. This podcast is pretty incredible. It sheds light on what remote work is and the beautiful advantages of it. So thanks so much for having me, and call me anytime, man, if you need me on the show again.
Thanks so much, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Projects can end unexpectedly, and each new organisation does things differently. The solution? Set expectations up front, ask pointed questions, and agree on what success looks like early on to avoid surprises. No commuting, more freedom to travel, and the ability to work from inspiring places like the Douro Valley in Portugal, while still getting the job done. Remote work is about consistently producing good work. Trust builds over time through a track record, clear communication, and smooth collaboration. And a special shout out to audio engineer and editor Samuel Monceau, who helped me out with some technical issues I encountered this month. Thank you, Samuel. So, if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.